You're listening to the Freio
Music Podcast.
To the Freio Music Podcast.
This is Savannah, and you're listening to the Freio Music Podcast.
I think I could be your lover 'cause you got mine, but you're a bit too shy. Maybe I should overlook that 'cause you seem alright. Yeah, you seem alright, and I thought that you would notice that I know.
Welcome back to another episode of the Freio Music Podcast. The featured artist in this episode is Sevana. Sevana is a young singer-songwriter based out of Jamaica. She's got some soulful melodies and has an amazing vocal range. She's got an array of different styles. She's got a self-titled EP. She's appeared on Protege's album. She's collaborated with Jesse Royal. Not only that, she's working on more music, more tracks. Sevana in this interview shares how she got to where she is today, some of the struggles and difficulties that she had to overcome. Really, her story is inspiring and one that proves if you get knocked down on your first try, get back up, you can do it. Hope you enjoy this interview as much as I did. Stay tuned and enjoy.
Well, my name is Savannah, and I'm based out of Kingston, Jamaica, even though I was born in Westmoreland, Jamaica, which is the other end of the island.
And when did you move to Kingston? I believe we were talking last, and you mentioned at age 16 you moved to Kingston. But what brought you to Kingston?
Yep. Music brought me to Kingston because I'd entered a national competition with two other girls in a group called SLR, which really was our initials. And I came to Kingston so that I could participate in the competition. They had us staying in a hotel here, and I just decided that at the end of the competition, when we placed third, that I just wouldn't go back home.
Wow, that's a bold move at such a young age.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just really worked out because I'd been telling my mother that I was going to move out because things weren't the greatest at home, and it just worked out for me that I had this competition at 16, and I had the opportunity to just not go back.
That's amazing.
I still do visit now, but like I just never moved back to Westmoreland. Yeah.
And was your family supportive of your decision to stay and pursue music?
I mean, I can't recall there being any real resistance. I think maybe my mother secretly was just like, she had enough. I don't know. I can't recall any real resistance, but I also don't remember any real support either. So, but like my brother was supportive, my sister was supportive. Yeah, my siblings were supportive.
And so what did you do? Obviously you were in a hotel room, you just finished that competition. How did you get your foot into Kingston? Like, how'd you figure out your place to be?
Okay, cool. So it's a long story. We actually ended up staying with one of the aunts for one of the girls in the group that I was a part of, until that didn't work out anymore because, domestic issues with them. And then we ended up staying with like a church member at the time because the aunt had us going to church, which was, unfamiliar to me because I didn't grow up going to church. Anyway, point is, we ended up staying with a church member who ended up being unsafe to stay with. And then we ended up staying with one of the group members' uncle for a time. And then I ended up moving in with a roommate, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And she became like a big sister to me / manager. And we lived for like maybe 2 years together until I ended up moving up by myself. In all this time though, I'd had jobs, so I was just making it work from being like a salesperson in the supermarket, just pushing carts around to sell cereal, to eventually becoming what's it called, like an account executive at like what's it called, a PR company.
Okay.
So I finished school and I was just doing jobs because I just decided that I didn't want to go back. So I made it work.
And was that PR job, was that in the music industry?
No, it wasn't in the music industry at all. It was just more marketing. So for example, imagine what's a brand that you guys have? I don't know, like Mercedes, right?
Okay.
Or something. I don't know. They'd come to the PR company, advertising agency, and just be like, hey, we'd love to have 10 ads online this month, and we want to see this kind of growth, and we want people to know about this new car that we're having. I'd be responsible for getting all of that done.
Great. And did you find it helpful as far as just creating your own brand? Because you've got a very solid brand with great imagery and, concise name, easy to spell. Did any of that marketing stuff carry over to your music world?
I guess it did. But as far as my name is concerned, it was really the roommate that I had, which really became like a sister friend. Her name is Shanae. She helped me come up with the name because I'm actually from Savannah-La-Mar, Westmoreland, Jamaica. So we just thought that'd be a good idea to, base my name on where I'm from, so I'd never forget where I'm from. That kind of corny perspective. And we decided to spell it a little bit differently so that, it'd be easy. So that's how Savannah came about.
Well, that's great.
But yeah, I definitely think it did help me to just know how to maneuver like online, like social media, because that's where it was. That's where I worked.
Great. So let's rewind before you came to Kingston. Tell me about your first musical memory.
First musical memory, very, very first musical memory was when I remember being around by my father's house. My father and mother didn't live together because they separated shortly after I was born. And I remember being at my father's house and hearing a gospel song. I believe it was "Carry Your Candle, Run Through the Darkness, Seek Out the Hopeless, Confused and Torn," or something like that. And I don't remember how old I was, but I just remember feeling very comforted by the song. Not that I understood the words really. I don't know. I just remember the melody and just how beautiful she sounded. And I just remember feeling very, very comforted. So yeah, I think that's my first musical memory.
Great. And tell me about your first musical performance. Was it before, did you perform or do anything at school before that competition that you entered?
I was never a part of a choir or anything, but there was a music competition that they were hosting. I think I was around 14 at the time. And I'd never gotten any official, vocal training or anything like that. But I saw that they were having a competition and I thought, maybe I should enter this. And so I entered and and I got booed off the stage.
Oh,
that was cool. It was great. Good for me,
Yeah. Well, tell me about that. Why was it good for you?
No, I was being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
But actually though, if we're going to be deep about it, it was good for me because I got over my stage fright,
Yeah.
Like I was no longer afraid of going up in front of people, or not as afraid because the worst had happened. So I just thought, I was booed off the stage in front of the whole school. That's the worst. It was kind of like, I cried about it, but it was very much like, well, that's the worst that I could imagine that could happen. So if I should try again, nothing could be worse than that.
Yeah. And how did you pick yourself back up? Or did you have some support from friends or family? Or how'd you get back on stage the second time?
I just think I'm quite determined, I would say. So generally, if something doesn't work out and I really, really want it to work out, I'll try as many times as I can before I give up, So I just hadn't given up, even though it sucked. I don't think it was traumatic enough for me to think I'm done with this. I'm done with singing. I don't want to sing, So I think internal motivation. Yes, I did get, like, my friends saw that I was booed off stage and they, consoled me, but they weren't like, oh, you should try again. It was just more like, we're so sorry this happened to you. So I think it was more internal motivation, which is how I'm motivated now as well. But more so that because now I know that music is part of my purpose,
Absolutely. So tell me about that internal motivation and confidence and drive that you have. What do you use to stoke that or to develop that skill?
Yeah.
Or tenacity?
Wow. I mean, right now it's definitely linked very tightly, like closely. What's the word? I don't know. It's definitely intertwined with my faith at this point, but at that time, I just thought, or I felt like music was like a safe space, and I guess these are all, like, safe space is a buzzword now, but I remember feeling as though music was healing for me, and I also remember feeling like music was the only thing that really fit. Like, when I was doing that, it really, really made sense, and then it developed from there to, this is it's one of my gifts, and I think it's one of my purposes. It's like one of my main things or main reasons why I'm here, like, why I'm alive, like one of my main contributions. And then so that I became kind of stuck on that, and then, getting kind of going to the more spiritual side of things now, me developing a relationship with, God and Jesus, it became clear, just more so than ever, because I did have an idea that it was my purpose before, but it became super clear then that it's one of the reasons that I was here, like, put here,
Yeah, well, I think that is amazing. I appreciate you sharing that story. Let's go to your voice. So you performed on stage, you got booed off stage, and then you got back up and you got back on stage. That's amazing. So,
oh yeah,
was there?
And even in the competition that we were a part of, that national competition, we were about 16. We got a lot of ridicule and, like, criticism. So it was brutal because all of Jamaica could see us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it
And
on TV?
It was on TV, yeah. And we'd go up there before the whole country every Sunday night and sing, and then people would have things to say because they'd see us in the street. We'd have to campaign in the street to get votes, right? So they'd see us in the street and they'd have, oh, you can't sing and it sound good. You can't sing, you don't sound good. You're too young to be in the competition. You shouldn't have chosen that song. Oh, I don't like you. So there's I faced a lot of that.
I call those haters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely way stronger because of it, though. I'm not easily fazed by anything that people say.
How did you develop your voice? Because I haven't heard those early recordings or that TV show, but I imagine that your voice has evolved over the years. Was there anybody that helped you develop your voice, or what steps did you take to pursue
get better?
Yeah, your instrument or your voice.
Right. Thank you for asking. I just kept singing. And that was a huge part of it. I'd just be, because it's kind of built in for me. You know how singers are always singing all the time. It's not something that we can necessarily help, or it's not because we want to show off. It's just something that feels really good to sing, and then also it's built in. It's a part of you, so you'll always want to be singing. And then, I mean, me just singing throughout the competition and learning how to harmonize, because that's something I learned on the TV show as well, how to harmonize, because of my group members, and then us trying to be a group after that for maybe like a year before, they had decided that they wanted to go back to school and kind of move back home and so on. I didn't want to move back home, but we had been trying to make it work for some time, and we'd always been singing, practicing our sets, because we had, 1 and 2 shows across Jamaica, actually quite a bit of shows across Jamaica that we'd go and sing at. And so for I think like a year, there was just practicing, singing, harmonizing, like getting the or sets down, like getting the set list perfected. And then after that, now when we had decided that, we're all going our separate ways, I just kept singing, and I was writing my own music, and I kind of linked up with an engineer that was in the area at the time who had access to a studio, and I just go up there and like become familiar with what recording felt like. And I'd just be covering different songs in the booth, and I'd just be like around the studio and like around recording equipment and just listening to myself, figuring out what sounded good, figuring out what I did that changed like the tone of, like tone of a note or the delivery of a note. So that really helped as well. And I did that for some time. And I remember at one point as well, going onto YouTube, and I was following, I don't remember his name. Oh yes, Brett. That's his name, Brett. I was doing like tutorials, like vocal exercises that he would give me on YouTube. I'd just be, randomly I discovered him because I wanted to be even better. So I had him be my coach for a little bit. He didn't know though. And most recently, I think maybe 2.5 years ago, I actually met with a vocal coach in Jamaica. Her name is Ruth Royce. And then I, got better at my technique and just not necessarily just to kind of improve the delivery of the notes, because there's just ways that you can optimize. There's ways that you can lessen the pressure on your vocal cords, just ways that you can just sing better, and it'd be better for your body, easier for you to like expel notes. So that's the journey, I believe.
What year did you move to Kingston?
I think it was 2009.
I'm very curious, and I think maybe you've kind of already answered it in the sense of being around the studio and hanging around and being exposed to music being recorded. But how were you able to get on to Proto's album before you had even released your own Savannah EP?
Oh, long story short, that friend I was telling you about that I lived with for like a couple of years, her name is Shanae Daily. Big up yourself wherever you are. We got super close, and she saw my interest in music because I never gave it up even while I was working. And actually, while I was working, I got very depressed about my just direction in life because I didn't feel fulfilled, and it ended up landing back on music. And she was there to witness all of that, right? Because we lived together. And so she decided, because she saw, the potential, or saw that I could sing, she decided that, I'm going to help you. So we started she started taking me around to different jam sessions like Jamnesia, different like jazz bars at the time. We don't have that anymore. And just jams, like open live jams. That it was a thing back then. I think 2012. I don't remember when, but just around that time before they all closed down. So I was doing that a lot. And then we started, networking with industry people. And then we saw that Protege had this show, because we had gone to one of his shows, and I thought, maybe I could do this. And she thought, yeah, I think you could do it as well. So the following year, he was going to have it again. This is Live from Kingston, one of the very earliest stagings. I don't know if that's grammatically correct, whatever. Right. One of the very early stagings of Live from Kingston. I believe this one was the one that was being held at Live Pegasus, right? And so I saw that was happening, and so I had some covers on SoundCloud, and what Shanae did, friend / roommate / sister, slash manager at the time. She was helping me out. She sent my covers to Protege's team, to his assistant, and then his assistant sent the recording to Protege, and Protege listened to it, and from his perspective, he was just like, my assistant sent it to me, and I started listening to it, and it wasn't even 30 seconds in before I decided that, yeah, she can be on the show. And then after that, I think shortly after that, he followed me on Twitter and, DM'd me and was just like, yo, I think you're brilliant. Like, let's meet up. Let's talk. Like, I think your sound is amazing, incredible, artable. And, at the time, like, he was really bubbling, I think with Rasta Love, or was it, who knows? One of those songs, right? But he was doing really well. And so I was excited. So I was just like, wow, Protege is messaging me. I should probably go meet him. So I went to meet with him with my friend Shanae. And yeah, I appreciated how like transparent he was and how it seemed to be like a collaborative opportunity. You know what I mean? It wasn't that. He definitely made it clear that he wasn't interested in telling me what to do, how to sound, what to look like. And I respected that just because I have a clear sense of direction. Well, at the time I had a clear sense of direction. And even now, I mean, it shifted a little bit, but I've always had opinions about what I wanted to do, and in terms of just visuals and songs and so on. So I appreciated that. And he seemed like a really decent person, human being. So I went ahead and signed on for his company to manage me.
And that's Indignation, right?
Yep. Yeah. So that's how they became my managers. And yeah. And so I performed on the show that year. Yeah. So that's how that happened. And then he was working on his album, and he was just like, I have this song, and I think that you'd work really well on the hook, which was Sudden Flight with Jesse Royal. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm down. So that's how that song happened. And then for Love Gone Cold, I believe they were trying to get like another singer, like an overseas singer to be on it. And then he was just like, you know what? I think that you do a really good job on it. And so I don't think he ended up pursuing the other singer. And I ended up singing the chorus on that, and then like writing the bridge. So that was really cool.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing kickstart to your recorded career. And
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so how was it being in the studio with other artists? I know it wasn't your first time in the studio, but were there any nerves, or were you overwhelmed by all the recording consoles and mixers and stuff?
No, I wasn't overwhelmed. I was excited, but I wasn't overwhelmed. I typically am good at keeping my cool, even when I'm freaking out on the inside. So yeah, I was just like, wow, this is happening, and this is what I've been wanting to do, and this is amazing. So let's do it. I was just more concerned with getting the recording done properly and just being proud of the product, more so than I was focused on, oh my God, Protege is right there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. You said it beautifully, but you said keeping your cool even though you're freaking out on the inside. So, how do you condition your mind, or is there any mantras or sayings or meditation? Do you do any particular techniques that help you quiet your mind?
I mean, wow, that's a huge question, right? Because I think that just my coping with stress or excitement or, just feelings and emotions, it started way back. I think me being able to process my feelings in any kind of a healthy way started when I was journaling, because I used to journal growing up. I don't know how I ended up picking up that habit, because it wasn't my mother wasn't super emotionally intelligent at all. And then she was the only parent. So I don't know where I picked it up from, but I picked it up. And I think me writing down my feelings about things, just about very dark things as well, things that were affecting me in my life, right? Just traumatic situations. I'd write it down, and then I, when I had the courage to look over what I wrote, I was able to see what I was feeling and just like face them, So that became a thing. Me processing my feelings became a thing because of that. I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time, but I think that has helped me over the years to be able to recognize that I'm super excited about something, but still be focused on getting the job done. You feel me? Because I understand why I'm excited, because I've gone through the process of seeing my feelings on paper then and like worked through them.
Yeah. I think
It definitely started. Yeah, it's like a child, like I think secondary school.
wow.
Yeah, I was always writing because I really love to write as well. I'd always loved words, like I had a phase where I was really obsessed with the dictionary and just learning new words. And I really loved English literature and just like writing. I really was into it for some reason. Like, and even now, I do think that writing is one of my gifts as well. But me practicing writing down my feelings for whatever inspired it, I don't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. And while you were talking, it kind of an analogy popped up in my mind when you're talking about writing your feelings and then kind of confronting them later when you are reading it, and it almost draws a parallel to singing behind a microphone and recording it, and then going back and listening to yourself, and then realizing, oh, I was a little sharp or whatever you hear. Yeah. So I think it's so important to be self-reflective, and in the studio, having a mic and just doing this podcast, for instance, and myself, listening back to myself, I hear all kinds of stupid things I say and go back to it. So it's, you never know until you listen back or till you read what you wrote.
Read what you read. Yeah. It makes it really real,
Yep. So you write your own lyrics, correct?
Yes.
Great. And when was the first time that you wrote a song, at least in your mind? Because I know a lot of those writings, there's a verse, or there's a line, there's a good rhyme there. But when did you sit down and just craft a song in writing?
I think I was 12. I don't remember how old I was. I had just started high school though, because I started off writing my feelings and then I fell in love with poetry. So I started writing poetry and then I started writing songs. I don't know how it happened, but that's how it developed. So I think I remember early high school, I wrote a song.
Great.
And it was about poverty. Something about, man, I forgot. Wow. It's on the tip of my tongue. Hold on.
It's okay. It might come to you in a couple minutes.
Yeah, but it was about, the idea of the song was, they don't care who they're killing. Just basically like the state of our country and people not really having compassion and just not really caring about who they kill, And then I remember I wrote a song about miracles as well. That I remember because it was just like, the song went, miracles happen every day. A baby born to die but lives anyway. Yeah, something like that.
Wow. That's great. Well, thanks for bringing me back to the unrecorded history.
Yeah, so I was writing early preteen, I was writing songs.
Nice. And when
Yeah.
we last spoke or met in Jamaica, you were working on the guitar. Are you still playing the guitar?
I am not. I didn't have the discipline to continue, to be honest with you. And also, I don't think I was as in love with the guitar as I thought. So no, I'm revisiting the piano, and I want to start lessons really, really soon. Actually, I made the connection with one of Chronix's pianist. So I'm gonna link up with him when I can, and when he's available, and just kind of start on like learning chords and like really learning the notes, because that was my first love. Like that was my first instrument that I thought, you know what, I should probably learn how to play this. I really love how just beautiful like the piano sounds, and so yeah, I'm gonna learn the piano, and I've reached out to some people, so I'm going to make it happen. So
great.
yeah.
Well, that sounds like you'll have an excellent teacher, and I wish you well with that. I'm excited to hear what comes out of it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna learn the piano. I still do know how to play a few songs on the guitar, but I've given it up,
Yeah. Well, there's
really
only
have
so
given
many instruments you could play simultaneously anyway, so
This is true.
You can't play them all the time. So
No.
So you, a couple years ago, you were on a big tour with Proto, and you guys toured Europe, and I believe last year you played in the U.S. for the first time. How was it playing out of the country?
It was dope.
Yeah, was
dope.
Was everybody supportive?
I was showed a lot of love. It was in Miami, and like people were singing the songs. Like I didn't know that people in the U.S. were hearing me and cared about my music. So it was nice. It made me really emotional to be in Miami, which in my mind, you have to think about how I'm seeing it, right? Miami for me, just being like from Jamaica, super, super small town. Jamaica is super small, and then even like a smaller town than Jamaica. Miami just seems like this huge, glamorous city of dreams that it's spits you out. I guess maybe I draw I think Miami is like New York. I've never been to New York, but in my mind, I'm just thinking it's a huge city. People don't really care. I think people are a little bit more critical. I don't know. So when I was playing at Wynwood and they were singing the songs, I was like, wow, people care about my music here. That's really cool. That must mean I don't suck, That must mean I'm doing something right.
You're international.
Yeah, I didn't realize that because it's a different thing to, we booked on 1 and 2 festivals in Europe. And really, like, you'll only have like a handful of people singing the song to going to the US, which you guys it's a huge market for music. Songs get lost, artists get lost. And for me to have any kind of a response there, I thought that was significant, What
are you planning this year? Do you have any tracks that you're working on? Are you recording? Are you planning on any tours coming up?
Absolutely. So I have 4 songs right now, 2 on a juggling. A juggling is a rhythm where several artists have a song on there. So I'm working on 2 jugglings right now, and I have a single which will be dancehall, and I'm excited to release that. And then I have another song on another rhythm, which will be like a standalone. So I'll have 4 releases before the end of the year. Hopefully most of them before summer. I don't know. Or up till summer,
Yeah.
And then I'm playing Boomtown. I'm playing Rotterdam. These are European. Boomtown is UK, and I have a few other UK shows. And then I have Rotterdam, which is in Europe. And more shows are still being added. And then I have just local things that I'm doing. I played 2 festivals here in Jamaica already. So it's not super busy, but I am predicting that with the release of these songs that it'll get more packed. Like the schedule will fill up, you know?
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm doing.
Well, that's great, and I'm excited to hear those tracks. So I'm just curious, as an artist, how you find balance between creating new songs, being inspired, touring. Obviously, health is important. So how do you manage all these kind of conflicting demands?
I have to be having a really difficult week to see taking care of myself as a demand, you know? It kind of is just like a part of me. It's a part of my winding down time or my time with myself, you know? So, you know, just doing a face mask, waking up in the mornings, making a smoothie, that like I actually enjoy it. It's not like I never think, oh, like I have to go make a smoothie, you know?
Yeah, you're excited too.
Yeah, like I'm like, woo, I get to make a smoothie and I get to use all my favorite vegetables and fruits, and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to feel so good, you know? I'm going to have the bowl movement I want. But anyway, it's not a chore. Taking care of myself, I don't see it as a chore or a demand. It's something I enjoy. If I do feel super, super stressed and it feels difficult to get up and do something for myself, I'll just kind of sit in that, not wallow or anything, but I'll just kind of allow that feeling to be present and kind of just examine it and just figure out why I don't feel motivated or why I feel unsettled. And once I'm able to work through that, you know, I maybe take a nap for an hour or something, and then I'll just start by tackling one thing at a time. So I don't tend to look at a whole list of things to do as like to be done right now. I break things apart and I'm just like, all right, well, I could do this today. So if I'm not feeling particularly motivated one day, I'll just at least try to do one thing, just so I don't feel like I've wasted the day. But yeah, and I don't know, it just, and even just taking care of myself, like eating, just cooking my meals and just buying organic and so on, it makes me feel good that I'm doing all this for myself, you know?
Absolutely.
It makes me feel like I'm doing good things for my body. And I just feel like once I'm taking care of my body, then, you know, my mind will be all right. And then I also, you know, I pray, like I go into the word. I sit still and just like, you know, not say anything for a time. Because I think that's important. Just quiet time, I like to imagine myself in what's the word? My God. In relation to like God and his bigness, you know, his grandness, his glory, and just like remembering how much God cares about me specifically and like my life and also my position in the kingdom, you know what I mean? So it's different. It's definitely different. You know, different levels. You have the physical level, you have the emotional level, where songwriting really helps me with that, and singing really helps me with that. If I get to perform in it, I remember actually recently I had a festival to perform at the Rum Festival, Jamaica, and my friend called me not like about an hour before I needed to go perform. And she told me that her mother died. She is one of my best friends. She told me that her mother passed. And it was very difficult to hear. And I remember just feeling really crushed about it. And then I remember also not giving off the best energy to the people who came to pick me up to go to the show. And for a little bit, like I didn't have control, like as much control as I would have liked for a little while. But when I, you know, went on stage and I started my set, I was able to kind of just expel all of that energy, all of the sad energy, you know? Not that the set was sad, not that the whole set became colored by me feeling sad, but me just kind of just, I don't know, just committing to being in that time and being present and just channeling how my feelings. Like I felt better, you know, when I finished performing. So, I mean, singing for me is therapeutic. Just sharing with people is therapeutic. Just talking, writing, taking care of myself to a point, and also the time that I spend with God, you know, and Holy Spirit. So it's a whole thing.
Great. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And just out of curiosity, do you have a morning routine? I know you mentioned your smoothie and being quiet and meditating or praying or being in silence. Is there a routine that you follow, or how do you best set yourself up for a creative day?
For the day. Right. Good question. So ideally, I've been kind of off of my routine just because I've been really busy with just between family and like work recently. Work meaning music. But ideally, like if I'm doing really, really well, I wake up, I make a smoothie, I have a smoothie, I go into the Word because I'd never actually read the Bible before. And so I'm starting out to read it just from the very beginning. I'm doing the King James Version and learning a lot of revelations. But anyway, so I'll do that and then maybe read a chapter or two, and then I'll write down what, you know, the Holy Spirit kind of revealed to me. And then I'll pray before I read. And then I'll do that, and then I'll pray again. And usually I'll just open the prayer and just kind of just listen to just, you know, anything that God has to say. And then after that, and that would be the quiet meditative time. It's just not me, it'd be just me imagining myself at like God's feet and just, you know, being open, like opening up my spirit and my heart to like hearing, listening, reverence. And then, you know, I would, once I get out of that, I would get ready to go do my workout. Sometimes I bathe, sometimes I don't before the workout, and I'll do that. And then from there, I would just, you know, I change out of my workout. Like I do the workout and I love it. Big up to my trainer, Mark. And
what do you do when you work out? Are you running or lifting weights, or what do you do?
I lift weights. I box. You know, just full body exercise. It's just it depends on how he feels, to be honest with you. Because he just has me, but it definitely involves weightlifting and boxing. And I do run to warm up, but running isn't typically like, you know, really in the full workout routine. It's just like, oh, take a lap around the field to warm up, you know? And we'll have like leg days, you know, core days, arm day, that kind of a thing.
Great.
And I'm very much in love with all of it. So I do that, finish that, get clean, and then usually if I have anything to do, if I have errands to do on the road, I just go straight into them. And then after that, if I have a performance, I get ready for it. If I don't have a performance and I'm tired, I'd take a nap for a half an hour, listen to some rhythms or not, just write a song or not. I don't know. It looks different when you're traveling, though. It looks different when you have a lot to do in the week, you know? Sometimes I don't get to exercise, but I do definitely try to keep having a smoothie and going into the Word as like a standard, you know? And obviously like washing my face, brushing my teeth, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this next one is kind of a question for when you're in the studio or when you're producing or writing an album.
Right.
So do you struggle with perfectionism? And if so, what are your tools or what strategies do you use to combat that? And what I mean is like, if you lay down a vocal line and it's not absolutely perfect, do you go back and then how many times do you go back? You know, like, because you could re-record it infinite number of times, but eventually you want to push publish.
Yeah, I mean, once it is, I feel that the feeling was expressed properly enough, like the performance was good. I'm usually okay with it. Yes, I am keen on getting the notes done well. But I typically don't have a huge problem with getting notes to sound on key, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then usually too, before I even hit the studio, I'm practicing the song. So whatever song I write, I would have known it before I go into the booth. So once I get into the booth, the objective is just to get the performance, like the expressing of the feeling of the song correct, you know? So I'm not necessarily obsessed with it being perfect. I think I'm more try to get the song sounding on key, like all of the yeah, I think I just prepare, you know? It's not necessarily like I need to get it perfect. I don't put myself under that kind of pressure because it's not useful. It's more so that I prepare to record the song, and then once I'm in the booth, I just I just focus on getting it to feel right, like getting people to feel it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy, just preparing so that way when you're in the booth, you know you've done everything up until that point to get it out best as possible. So I'd like to dive quickly into a couple of your songs, and then we'll close up.
Okay.
Now, hopefully I'm saying this right, but correct me.
Yeah.
Your song Raleigh, did I say that right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's Raleigh. It can be pronounced that way, but it's really Rawl.
Rawl. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It was the name of a friend of mine. And that's how his parents spelled it, you know, which it technically isn't correct, but you know.
It is what it is.
Sometimes,
It sounds to me like a story from your childhood.
It is.
And it's just such a beautiful song too.
Thank you.
Tell me about it a little bit. Just what inspired you to write it?
All right. Well, I mean, I think subconsciously I was thinking about him because we were in studio, and we had guitar. Monty was there playing guitar. Monty's one of Jamaica's most, like, he's incredible, right? And he plays with Protege. So he's Protege's guitarist, but also just outside of that, just stunning on the guitar. But so he was just playing some things. I think I was humming, and then he started like playing a few chords that, you know, were in key with my humming, and I kind of just started singing. You were saving me memories or something like that, and then all you want to know, something, I don't know, but I was kind of just singing a few lines, and then my brain caught up. I don't know how it happened, but like my brain and heart and all the things, they kind of just caught up with each other, and it was just like, oh yeah, you're singing about Raul. That's what's happening, because I had avoided processing anything regarding him just because of how he died, and it was super violent, and like I didn't go to the funeral. Me and my brother were close, and I didn't go to the funeral to support my brother, and I didn't actually go back home for a while just because I just didn't want to face it. I hate funerals. I'm not a fan of people dying. It's a lot, you know? So I think up until that point, I didn't really think about it. It's kind of like, oh, he died, I'm not going to face it, you know, until I was in the studio. And then the words I was singing, it was like, only want to remember us playing like flying kites in the breeze. And I was like, that's about Raul. And then I kind of just realized it and went along with it. And I ended up writing the song pretty quickly because I guess it was something I needed to get out, like express. And yeah, that's how it happened. It's real. All of the references in the songs are things that we used to do. And it was just me kind of just processing losing him and never seeing him again.
Wonder if you knew that I was in love with you. Later that year you moved to the other side of town and I felt like a fool. But I came to look for you, watch videos and talk about late nights skating down the slope, telling dirty jokes. You were saving me memories. Now I wonder if I'll ever see you. Tell me when I want to remember you singing and flying kites in the breeze. I only want to remember us stealing mangoes from the neighbor's tree. I can't imagine that you're gone at all. Don't think I'll ever believe it. Can't imagine that you're gone. Don't think I'll ever.
I think it was a necessary thing for me to do. So just kind of just just face those feelings that I avoided facing for a time. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that story, and
Yeah.
I didn't know the backstory, but as you said earlier, music is therapeutic for you, and
it is.
but it's also therapeutic for the listener. So
Yeah.
there's a balance, and obviously you're expressing something that is unique to you, but
Right.
the listener or receiver of the music is interpreting it in their own way.
Yeah.
And a different song
Right.
of yours, "Easy to Breathe," is
Yeah.
is another one that really calls to me, and I'm just also curious, kind of the backstory behind that one.
Right. So Easy to Breathe. I was in a very toxic relationship, right? And I didn't feel for most of my life, by the way, not right now, because I have like a healthy group of friends and like, extended family and like spiritual fathers and mothers and so on to kind of help me deal. But I have always kind of felt like an outsider, And then at the time, just being in this relationship and not feeling like I was being heard or understood or like the effort was being made. And then on top of that, me trying to figure out what my sound was going to be like, and just like a ton of just different things, stressful life things happening. I wrote Easy to Breathe, and it was just me talking about going through depression, really. And kind of just seeing feeling what that was for me and kind of dealing with it. Yeah, so the world gets so loud and the sky looks bleak. It's kind of like it's like there's a filter on everything, It's as if, all right, so just imagine then interacting with somebody, but there is like a sheet between you and the person, and it's see-through enough where you can see them, but you don't fully connect. Like there's no actual skin-to-skin contact because like that thin sheet is there. You feel me?
Yes.
But you can see them though, and you can probably interpret some of the feelings that they're feeling, and you can kind of relate, but not really. Like you're not able to really connect. That's what Easy to Breathe is trying to describe. Like, I feel so low when I cannot remember my dreams. I was having difficulties I was having difficulty remembering why I even started music, which I think is a good place to be. When you're questioning your purpose, it's a good place to be because it's either that you need to shift direction or maybe you were misguided this whole time and this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. So even though it was painful and difficult, I think it was necessary because it cemented it even more for me. It became like a test. But anyway, you don't hear what I say when I say these things. So the idea that nobody's really hearing me what I say, I just kind of, and then just being young and kind of just sharing your feelings, everybody just thinks you're complaining because life isn't that hard for you. It cannot be that hard for you. Like you have so many opportunities. Like you have so much at your disposal. And just them giving advice, but it not really being advice. It's just like kind of half-hearted. They're listening to just respond. You don't hear what I say when I tell you these things. All your advice doesn't help to give me no peace. Don't say carry on, because they just be like, no, I just keep going, you know? Don't say carry on, that it's not that bad. And then I go into I wish it was easy to breathe, because I just felt like I was having difficulty breathing, like actually living and feeling and connecting.
Keep on, don't say you don't know what hard life is like yet. I wish it was easy to breathe. Every day's the same, I am over the way that these days just repeat. Wish there was somewhere I could be. Don't tell me to smile if you're not going to stay here with me.
That's all I hope for, you know, just creating honest music that helps people. You know, that's the goal. Yeah. Sometimes still after that, and like a huge part of me being depressed too was just being in that relationship. So, I mean, an even greater relief happened when when that relationship ended. Thank God. And then that's when I really started making my way back to myself after that relationship ended. And, you know, shortly after that, I got like a real connection with God, because I wasn't really super into you know, this belief of like a father in the sky kind of deal. But it became real to me, just, you know, personal experience. And yeah, so it was a whole journey after that. So no, it wasn't, oh, I wrote the song and I'm now healed. I definitely hope that can happen for some people, but that wasn't what happened for me. But it did help. It was just like, you know, I wrote the song and I wrote my feelings out and I'm facing it, you know, so it did help. It did help with the processing.
Just wish it was easy to breathe, but it's not. I know I'm starting to complain a lot. Take so much energy to reach the top. How am I supposed to grow and I can't stand on my feet? I'm so tired. No one takes the time to ease my mind. Not many ways to tell you I'm not finding you.
One of your most recent tracks, Justice. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So before it was like a year before I got saved, that I was trying to write a song about the earth or relationship with the earth, that kind of like thoughtlessness about, you know, or that delusion then that what we do doesn't have an impact on earth and won't have an impact on us, like the people, like it won't affect our quality of lives. So I'd been trying to write it for a little bit, and then, you know, I got saved, and then I took but in this music journey, by the way, I took many breaks. Like I've had to take several months off to just like be okay while I've been on this musical journey. So I would just disappear not disappear in terms of like nobody could find me, but I just wouldn't be on social media. I just wouldn't be trying to do music, you know? But anyway, so I got saved, and then I had to handle that, and I kind of had to figure out what that meant and what that looked like, and what it looked like, and what a relationship with God would look like. And then I remember I started writing again later that year, I think October. I don't remember when I started writing back, but it had been several months since I had written anything. And, you know, that song about Earth came back up again, you know? It became urgent for me to write it. So I was just like, all right, let me write the song.
Putting up borders, splitting the earth into worlds. So if I belong to the third world, it means that the first bears more fruit. So selfish with what we have, and not really mindful of who will suffer, and so we continue to tear down, uproot, never ever thinking long term, always thinking of what we can earn now. If you're asking what your life is worth, what will the answer?
I think I got through it pretty quickly because just me stepping away from it or just stepping away from music for a little bit, it allowed me to have an even clearer perspective. So I went back into writing that song, and me referencing the whole "it'll rain down fire and stone," that's about that's a reference to Revelations, even though I haven't read Revelation. So it was really just me kind of just being aware that that's a thing that the Bible talked about and kind of just putting that in there. But yeah, I don't know. That song was it's really to talk about our segregation as a people, just even as countries, the US being like a first world, Jamaica being a third world. And that just, in my opinion, this is my theory, being just on the face of it, it lets you know that you're not as good as. You feel me? Like it would cause a Jamaican citizen to be like, I'm not as good as an American because they have all these things. They are more fruitful, which is why I reference, you feel like the first bears more fruit, which I think it's not honest, because there's this idea that you guys are grander and bigger. And yes, you're definitely one of the powerhouses. Like America is one of the powerhouses of the world. And I definitely get that. And anything that you do affects everybody else. But for us to have the impression that we're not as good as, I don't think it's good, just for our people. So that whole idea of us segregating, that whole idea of us being selfish and kind of just looking to make money. And this is everybody around the world, every country around the world, like just kind of focus on making money, not thinking about how it will impact the environment or people who don't have as many, don't have access to as much as we have access to. You feel me? Because I understand that I am of privilege as well, by no, even though I didn't grow up like that. But anyway, so it's kind of just talking about how we are selfish on a cultural level, country level, and then on a personal level, and then in our relationship with Earth. It's kind of like, I'll take all that I can get, but I'm not going to think about how Earth is going to respond. And I guess I'm talking about Earth as like a person, but I don't mean to. I just mean there'll be consequences to you throwing, garbage in the gully. It's going to be blocked up. Places are going to be flooded. It's kind of just a response. It's going to go out into the sea. It's going to affect marine wildlife. It's going to maybe kill off some of the fish. We won't have as much fish.
Polluting our waters and putting the poison in food. Everything made to sell so we don't hear the truth. Never ever thinking long term. Always thinking of what we can earn now. If I ask you what your life is worth, what will you answer as you litter the ground? The earth will serve us justice. Will outlive you and me. With every storm, there's justice.
Or overfishing. The fishes are smaller. You have to wait longer to get a certain type of fish. People don't really think about that kind of thing. People don't really think about like fracking as a thing and how it destabilizes plates and like earthquakes that happen because of it. We're just thinking, we're more focused on, you know what, I ate this thing, I'm satisfied now, I can just throw it anywhere. Because like, I'm not thinking about anything outside of myself, and I'm not even thinking about myself. Because if I were aware to recognize how my actions will impact me, not very long from now, I would be acting differently, So it's really just about our mindlessness as a people, just globally. And what will happen if we continue to be this way? So, justice.
The earth will serve us justice. Don't have to choose to believe. We all think that we're so mighty. Well, if we cannot see, we feel.
I think it's a message that the world definitely needs to hear, and people should be thinking more globally and long term. And I think it's a a problem with society that is not specific to one culture, although America surely has its fair share of short-term thinking
Oh yeah, absolutely. I
and
agree.
destruction
Yeah.
of the environment. But people really
Agreed.
should be thinking larger, and I'm grateful that you created a song and an expression of this concept and wanting to kind of change people's behavior, or at least thinking and actions. So
Yeah.
that's great, and I appreciate you sharing and telling me about that song.
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, if one person can become more thoughtful, that's the goal, you know? I'm not necessarily looking to start a revolution. It'd be nice, but if one person can just think, you know what, I'm not doing the best, and I probably need to make more of an effort, then that's cool, you know?
Yeah. Well, every action has its impact, so good actions have their impact too. So,
Yep.
speaking of people making impacts on the world, I'm curious, as a young artist yourself, what advice would you give to somebody starting out in the music industry today? Or maybe what advice would you give your younger self, as if that's possible, at age like
My
16?
younger self.
Yeah, like what lessons have you learned that you think might ease somebody else's process through the music industry? Progress.
Okay, well, practically, I definitely would have started networking way earlier than I did, you know? So don't necessarily wait on somebody to make the introductions for you. You can you can start to make your own introductions. Definitely take advantage of the platforms that we have. Those short 15-second videos on Instagram, or just a short 15-second video on Twitter can go a long way. You definitely always want to do, like, however you're hearing the music in your head, stay true to that. Like, yes, it can be a collaboration between you and the producer, but if you are so sure that a certain chord needs to, it needs to be like, it needs to feel more sad, then definitely push for it to be more sad, because you're hearing the music the way that you're hearing it for a reason. And you have to respect that. So yeah, I guess those three things. Be honest with yourself. Even though advice might sound good, it might not be the advice for you. And also be open to listening to people as well. Definitely take counsel. Like you have to, but let it be from people who you trust, because some people are, don't have your best interest at heart. And if you do find a team, make sure that you have absolutely zero doubts about the team that you first connect with, because you don't have to be the most talented, but once your team believes in you, that's going to look completely different as to how, like, they push for you to be, for your opportunities and so on, so those things.
So, okay, I've got two last questions for you. And
Okay.
The first one is, where can our listeners reach out and find you on social media or on the web?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm, active enough on there. But if you really want to talk to me, you can just message me not message me, but just at me on Twitter. And it's Call Me Savannah. So that's Call Me Sevana. I'm pretty responsive on Twitter, so if you really want to talk, ask questions, I'll be there to answer it. And if you want to see my pictures and image and so on, you can go to Instagram or my website. Once you type in Savannah, usually, there'll be some kind of me popping up.
Nice. And your website, is that Savannah-Siren?
Siren.
Cool. Well, the last question is basically for you. So is there anything else that you'd like to share with me or a listener out there or the world?
Just do your best. Do your best every day to be good. That is so corny. But yes, I think we do need to be more mindful of being good and doing our best. And that looks different every day. I'm not saying that you need to be, breaking down boundaries every single day, but, just do your best to be good.
Savannah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really do appreciate your time, especially in music and art, and willingness to be open and share your voice and your story with me and the listeners. It's really amazing, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, man, that's why we're here, we're here for each other, so might as well,
We're playing, running around in the fields. I'm just saying, now you're not gone. We're playing, running around bare feet, and your hands are still waving at me. Yeah, but now you've waved goodbye to me. Late night, skating down the slope, telling dirty jokes, you were saving me a memory. Now I wonder if I'll ever see you. Tell me, will I to remember you singing and flying kites in.
You've been listening to the Freio Music Podcast with Michael Morahan. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And don't forget to share this podcast everywhere. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned.
Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music. You are listening to Freio Music.